Okay, this is the Sony NX100, one of Deanza's basic camcorders that has an integrated lens with lots of zoom. Overall, relatively easy to use, good auto modes. Inside the box and pictured here is the camcorder itself, the batteries the camcorder uses, and the charger. In order to use the charger, you can plug this cable here into the wall. The other end plugs into the power brick. And then you can slot the battery into this little NPF charger to charge it. It'll take roughly 2 to 3 hours to charge it, so make sure you charge your battery before shooting. The cable from the charger can also be unplugged and plugged into the camcorder, so the camcorder can be ran effectively forever off of wall power if desired. Taking a look at the camcorder itself physically, on the front of the unit is the lens itself, where you can pull this off to reveal the lens and hide the lens cap, and make sure to store it safely so you don't lose the lens cap. On the right side of the camera is a spot to put your hand to hold the camcorder, and then there is a zoom in and out buttons on the side that allow for nice, easy zoom in and outs, a start-stop button here, and a focus magnification, as well as a last scene that'll play your last clip in order to review it. On the back of the unit is some of the I/O, including video outputs, the pot to plug in the power charging cord so you can run it off of battery, as well as an HDMI and remote output. This is also where the battery for the unit goes. So you can take a battery, slot it so that the connection pins are facing down, slide it all the way down, and click it in so that it's in place. In order to remove it, press the bat release button, slide it up, and it should then slide out. Next to that is the dual SD card slots. You can put one SD card or two in here so that it can either record on multiple for redundancy or switch to the other one once one card is full. On the side here, there's also a headphone jack here so you can listen to the audio that is being recorded. Moving over to the left-hand side of the unit is almost all of the controls in order to use it. Notably, is almost all the controls in order to use it. Hiding on the bottom here is most of the exposure controls as well as the power switch. You can slide this here to power the unit on. This full auto mode will do all the exposure settings automatically for you, so it'll just set it to what it thinks best. Otherwise, you can press one of these buttons and use the up dials, as we'll see in a second, to adjust it manually. Here's the ND filter. This is useful when you have lots of light, like if you're shooting outside and want to lower the exposure without cranking up the shutter speed or aperture, for example. Typically, if you're inside, you want to limit this to clear, but you might want to stop this down to limit the amount of light. This is not adjusted by full auto, so you have to still set this manually. There's more exposure controls here, and then in here is the audio controls. So you can set both inputs for left and right channel to either be using the line, mic, or mic with phantom power on the built-in XLR jacks here. Generally, it is best practice to always turn off phantom power before plugging or unplugging a mic that requires it. Now you can also set where the input of the mic is from. Either the internal mics on the camera, you can set it to use the external mics via the XLR jacks, or using the MI shoe. Deanza doesn't have anything that uses the MI shoe, so likely you either want to use the XLRs or the internal mics. I'm going to set these to internal for the demo. I can set the levels to either manual, where the dial will adjust it, or auto for both of them, so the camera will determine what the best levels it should set it to. In order to operate the camera, first switch it on, and then you can either leave the screen closed and use the viewfinder in here to view and set settings on the camera, or you can open up the screen. If the camera hasn't been used for a bit, it's going to give you this screen here that allows you to set the time zone and the time on the camera. Doing this is best practice so that your footage you shoot doesn't have any time. It's best practice so that the footage you shoot shows the correct time on it. I might want to do this. If I hold it like this, can you easily see the screen and what's going on it? Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Yeah, okay. For simple shooting, press the full in order. Actually, do I want to point this here so you can actually see an image? Wow, isn't it beautiful? Cinema. For the most basic of shooting, press the full auto button and the camera will say auto next to the aperture, gain, and shutter speed settings, and automatically change that if the levels change in order for correct exposure to be reached. If you want to adjust any of these manually, you can press the buttons on the side that say, for example, gain down here, and then use this little knob once you turn off full auto to adjust the gain from like 0 dB all the way up to 27 for a brighter image. This works effectively the same as ISO on other cameras, and it's just a different way that lots of these more broadcast cameras say gain or ISO. What else do I want to do? In order to adjust more settings, you can go into the menu by pressing the menu button on the top here. This will show the whole menu with all the settings, but one of the settings you probably want to use the most on this camera is going to be under this second like arrow menu, and then record settings, and then you want to probably change the recording format, which would let you change the frame rate, either of 24, 30, or 60p, which is probably best for most users. So for example, I will set it to 30p here. It will take a little bit of time to change the frame rate on this camera. One other thing to set on this camera before shooting is on the bottom other menu, going all the way to the bottom, and then going to media format. This will format the media cards in your camera, either A or B, depending on which slot you want to format, put it in the correct file format, and get the card ready for shooting. Generally, it's best practice to always format before shooting and make sure that there's no files you care about on your SD card before formatting. If you want to set up more overlay displays under the display setting, which is third from the bottom, you can enable things like the histogram, zebras, and what level the zebras should be set to, peaking for focus peaking, focus magnification settings, and more. All of this can make it easier to set exposure and use it in different situations. Once the menu is set up and you record a clip, you can press the record button here on the top or the record button next to the hand grip on the side and start recording if it has a memory card. Once you've recorded a clip, you can press the thumbnail button here to view all the clips you've had, and then press set to pick one of the clips to start playing and use the arrow key so to select the clip you want to play. This should be the basics of setting up and using the NX100 to record videos. Wow.